So let's summarize what happened on Friday. It is believed that normally Friday option expiration will have wicked movements in both the top stocks like Amazon and Apple, and also the QQQ and the SPY. It turned out to be relatively mute, although I did feel a lot of pressure. The thing that got to me was that the recovery happened around 10:30. You can see right here is I mean, you can say it's anywhere between 10:15 to 10:45. This normally does not occur, and it's interesting that that did occur because you can see how the VIX at this point, the volume wasn't sufficient. So that was a little bit of a signal that today was not going to be the sell-off that I thought, but that I still wasn't gonna rule it out because sometimes it's just stall and then the volume would come in. This does happen before, right? At this point right here, you say it's looking weak. However, if it just breaks out and goes this direction, the volume will come in and you'll see huge green volume candles and green candles going this way. So interestingly, I think the reason why it happened may have been because of Moderna. And you say, why would a small company like Moderna, that isn't even, what is the market cap on this guy? I believe it's only like 136 billion, and it's one of the high flyer. How would that matter in regards to saving the entire market? Well, there's just a signal here that that is a little bit interesting, and why I think that may be the case, and why I've always stated that everything is linked together. And here is that signal. You see the 100-day moving average. This is a key technical line. Moderna went down and touched this 100-day moving average right after the huge gap down, and this is what you call the flush. So, where did the turnaround happen? Right here at 10:35, the very low of Moderna, the recovery at this is of course a doji 10:45, the doji tail, a recovery candle, and of course there is a recovery, but it's not a significant recovery. However, it's still enough of a recovery that bring it above the 100-day moving average. And for whatever reason, why did this recovery trigger everything else to recover? I'm not 100% sure that it is Moderna that did it, but Moderna showed the correlation, and whether that is the reason or because the QQQ, but why did the QQQ recover here? The only signal that I saw that's at a key critical level is Moderna, right? I mean, the other guys, Apple, let's take a look at Apple and see if there's any correlation as far as recovery. Like this is a low, but it's at the one. I mean, there is no this is not a technical level. Let's look at Amazon and see if there's anything here. Again, this is not a technical level. Tesla, there wasn't a technical level, but we'll go ahead and look at it as well. There it is. It didn't touch the 20. Shopify wasn't it as well, right? Shopify, you can say, well, maybe it touched the 61.8. I'm not sure if it did touch the 61.8, right? I don't see it. The only stock that showed a correlation was Moderna. And of course, Moderna and biotech is probably going to be the same. There it is, biotech, right at the 200-day moving average. which is the low at 1045, right there, 1045. So bio, biotech, Moderna, and of course the biotech um, uh, if I share, that's gonna trick. There it is, right? That recovery right there at 155. So it's all related in the sense that Moderna biotech triggered the recovery in the biotechs trigger recovery in the QQQ and the SPY, and that in essence triggered the recovery across the board for all the high flying stocks. That is my theory because that is what I see as a correlation. So what did I do today? Let's go ahead and go over why I didn't. I made some really critical mistake. At this point right here, this is probably at 10:45 as well. Yes, it is 10:45. You can see that recovery. Had I known and watched Amazon, had I known and watched it, Moderna and Amazon and saw this correlation, I would have gotten in. But of course I didn't because I didn't trust any of this. At the time I didn't trust I was still convinced that it was gonna have a sell-off. And why did I think it was gonna have a sell-off? Well, based on yesterday analysis, I just thought the VIX was gonna come in volume. Here it is, right? I was predicting it was gonna go up to here. So where did it go? It didn't get anywhere to it. It didn't go up to 27 and a half like I thought. Now, I think it would have done that had it wasn't for the dynamics of what just happened, Moderna and biotechs and the IBB, the biotechs index, triggering the recovery. Although I would have to say that the VIX volume was a little bit low, so probably the sell-off wasn't gonna happen today. You can see the VIX volume. This is a very critical signal, is the volume. It was just mediocre. And I would say, well, you know what? It's mediocre, but it can come in later on. At any point, it could come in. Of course, it didn't, and it started to collapse. At which point I should have knew the recovery was in order, especially as it approached the afternoon. I just didn't trust it. I don't know why. I just had it in my head that the market was going to sell off. So the mistake I made was that after this run up, this recovery, right? You can see this recovery in Amazon all the way to the flat line. This also correlated with the QQQ going up to the 5 minute trend line, and then it was gonna back off. My mistake was that I just was too eager to get in, and I got in at the VWAP level on this candle. This candle is not, it is a recovery candle, but the thing that I did not, I mean, and I've seen this so many times, VWAP is often a trap nowadays. Maybe a year ago, VWAP, this classic signal where you got a doji tail and VWAP, that is often going to trigger a recovery. However, the programs has changed, and guess what happened? It sold off all the way down here. The QQQ did not do that. It was staying above the VWAP for the whole duration that Amazon was going down. So I can tell you what happened. Here is the shares that I bought. It was the call volume, and I made 446 for the day, but it was the call volume, and I bought one at 30.5 and the other at 23.5, right? So 30.5 and 23.5. So let's take a look at that one. Right here is where it was. So um, here it is, right? This is the upturn, and here is that right there, 30.5, and I buy it again at 23 right here. Well, it went all the way down to 17 and a half. So I was down 18, 1900. 1900 because of this. And normally, a lot of time in the past, I would have sold for a loss. I would not hold on to this pain. It's just based on experience. A is based on experience that I've seen this signature before where this is a low, a higher low. This guy right here is a low, but this is a higher low. I've seen this before many times. That's A. And then B, my account is at an all-time high. So I'm willing to take the loss. I was not gonna sell. I mean, it turned out good, okay for me, but it could have been bad because it could have flushed at any time. Bad news could have happened. Who knows what could have happened. So this is a fail on my discipline. Holding it was a fail on my discipline, but it turns out in my favor today, and of course it went all the way back up. Now I wasn't gonna hold it all the way from this, right? The pain from seeing your account down 18, 1900, it's just too much for the mind to bear. I'm just not that strong to hold into, because if it triggered back down, I would just be kicking myself, right? Because, at this upturn, you're making a gain and then it goes negative. It was just too much for me to bear. So I sold out, of course, very early at 28 to make around a $200 gains. And I was happy with that. I was very happy because I was down 18, 1900. Had I bought it at the right level, which was on this doji candle, had I bought it right here at 20, maybe add another share, maybe sold out here, then add it again, play it. I probably could have made opportunity loss. I wrote was 1,000 on opportunity loss, but I think it's probably had I played it really correctly, I would have probably opportunity loss is probably 1,500. This second leg up, that was hard to see, honestly. I typically, if it fails again, this is a negative, very negative, you know, because this was at 2 o'clock, right? This was at 2 o'clock. So we're talking about it being very close to the low, and there was no indication that it couldn't just, avalanche lower. So missing out on this, I guess this upturn isn't an opportunity loss because I just didn't see this. Of course, had I held it all the way, I would have made a lot of gains. But that's not the important part. The important part is, um, you know, listening to the technical is very important. Following this 15 minutes, and you can see the 15 minutes trend line, everything kind of end relatively close to it. Here, the QQQ hit the 15 minutes and then retrace back. Um, Amazon, of course, hit the 38.2 and then retrace back. This Apple hit the 15 minutes and stay above it. The VIX, I believe, is below the 15. Tesla is at the 15. Google is above the 15. And let's just throw in the SPY, and that's gonna be at the 15 as well. Yes, there it is at the 15. So what am I saying? I'm saying this 15-minute trend line is a key variable right now for everything. As far as the intraday, the overall direction of the general trend is going to be the 60 minutes, which is this guy. But following the intraday, it's going to be 15. And of course, the overall global is always going to be the daily and the weekly. So at this point, what are we saying? What do we see? I mean, we see a bounce on the 100-day moving average. The volume is sufficient. We have a new quarter. This is Q4, and we're at the 15. So is this a positive bias? Um, Generally, I think it would be a positive bias. However, there is something that is just not sitting right with me, and that is the fact that you can see these previous sell-off. This is one, this is two, this is three. Every one of this recovery, what do you see on the next week? You see a test of the low. You see some battling, right? It's going to test the lows one way or another. So what do I see is that on Monday there may be a chance to break higher above the 15 initially, but I think at any point, maybe let's just say 362.50 at this level, it's gonna start to fade, and then it's gonna come back to the 15. Once it touches the 15, when it's trying to break out. If it touches the 15 again, it's gonna play around, it's gonna fight, but the chance of it failing, the longer it's fight, the better the chance it's going to fail. And it fails because it wants to retest this candle right here. It wants to retest. Now you can say, well, maybe that'll happen on Tuesday because this is low. So maybe Monday it run all the way up, and then Tuesday it will, Monday it goes all the way up, and then Tuesday is when it'll come back down and touch the 15. Yes, that is really a it's the same argument more or less. It's just the outcome is a little bit different. But the argument is still the fact that next week you're going to have a test lower on Monday or Tuesday, or maybe even Wednesday, and then turn around Wednesday, we'll go back up higher, and then follow with Thursday, Friday to come back up to a nice green candle like this guy, right? That's what we're looking for next week, a nice green candle for the start of October. So, the SPY obviously looks a little bit stronger, and it's sitting above the 20-week moving average, and you don't see that similar signature. I mean, here you see it where it battle. Well, I don't know if you see because it closed at the low, so this one is actually higher. So actually, the SPY is always stronger than the QQQ. Not always, but in recent trend has been stronger, and this is still the case. So if you were to select a company or an index, you would want to base the company to be a large component of the SPY. I can't think of one on top of my head, but research into it and get a company that is a large component of the SPY, and that would be, or just buy the SPY index itself. That would be the best bet. Um, let's go ahead and let's see what happened to game, and we'll go through the individual game. I don't see anything right now. It's just sitting right there. AMC, I think is the same, sitting right, yeah, sitting above the 15 at least, and sitting above the 100. So that's actually, this is AMC is more bullish than game, and maybe it's time for that squeeze. You never know when it's going to get that next squeeze. So, always a possibility for these meme stocks to do it. Amazon is still negative. It's a weak performer today. Didn't touch the 15, sitting at the 38.2 in the Fibonacci. And I don't think Bezos is gonna sell his shares in October, but you never know. It may be that Bezos is gonna start selling his allotment that he's been saving up. Instead of November 1st, which is what I'm thinking, he may start on Monday. So we won't know until if it collapses on Monday, then we'll know that it's Bezos who is selling his automatic shares. Tesla, here's the thing about Tesla. It is below the 15. And like I said, the first test of the 15 is a good bounce. The second and third one, is very suspicious, but it did bounce. The fourth bounce, the fifth bounce. And then yesterday I said, this is the fifth time it's touched the 15th. Well, guess what? It collapsed. And then, of course, that recovery at 10:45, back to the 15, back down, and now it's sitting below the 15. And even though this is a doji candle, right? This is a recovery candle. The thing about a doji candle is it has to be at lower level to really have impact. Like this right here is a doji recovery candle. Same with this, right? And this is not, but if it occur here, that would be any sell-off would be a doji candle. This is still a doji candle, but it's just not as powerful because there is no really sell-off. And this is the signal. I don't know what it's called, of course, but this triangle signal where you got these little wicks that hanging lower and lower, that is a lower high kind of speak, right? If you look at it on the 60, it's a lower high. So I think it's going to test the 60, honestly, which is 760. So it's going to be touching this. So my first target of bounce, and often it will undershoot. So always be careful of an undershoot. So it's already below the 15. It's gonna go down lower this level, maybe undershoot the 60-minute trend line. I don't know how far it will undershoot, and that would be, of course, undershooting this 20-day moving average, and then there would be a bounce. That would be my prediction for Tesla. Apple, of course, I think I speak already on it, but I don't know. This is a doji recovery, nice volume, sitting at the 15. Yeah, everything right here does in sitting at the 20 week. So this is very similar to what you see on the Nasdaq and the SPY. I think, of course, this is you gotta say it's bullish. I mean, I don't see any other way because it's a bounce, it's a doji tail, it's above the 20, above the 100 doji tail, nice volume, above the 15. The 60 is right there waiting it for to test. So Apple does look rather positive. Google was the one I am kind of kicking myself because I did get in. I mean, I had an order. I had an order for Google. Where was it? I had an order right here on this. Where was it? Let me see. Oh yes. So I had an order right here to buy on this guy. On this guy, I had the order, and I was sitting there. I wanted to hit it. The reason why I had an order for it was Google was strong, right? It was higher, and everything was selling off, but Google was showing strength, relative strength. And what relative means is that compared to everything else, it was positive, and of course it's going to drop because everything else was dropping. And then I wanted to hit it, but I was just chicken. I was just chicken. And of course, before I know it, anywhere here I wanted to, boom. And then at this point, I would have to chase, and I went all the way up here. And at some point, I mean, this looks kind of strange to be honest. I got in again here, right? I did get in here on the 15. However, I just sold out on this section. I did not hold it for this entire duration up. So yeah, the reason it looks strange is because I'm being accustomed to watching the 15. And the 15, you do see it a lot clearer. On the 5 minute, you don't see anything. There is nothing. That's why I say it's looking strange, because I converted my charts to really paying attention to 15, and this looks much more to what I was seeing that day. This just looks strange to me because there wasn't any line. So here it is, right? That and this VWAP, breaking this VWAP, right? Here was what I was actually seeing, right? I didn't see these individual candles, so I was trying to get in here, and then boom. There's too late. I had to chase. I got in good at this point, but I got out too early. So yeah, just not accustomed to holding, just still, having too much fear. Bookham, let's take a look at Bookham. I think this is a bounce, right? Yeah, a nice bounce. Wow. What a powerful bounce. So that is no longer peak to peak, right? So peak to peak was, and I should have known because of option expirations that it was gonna bounce like that. I didn't realize that Bookham had that much option involved to where it just gap up, and maybe this is in sympathy to all the other airlines like Boeing and all the other stocks. So maybe it was in sympathy to those companies and far as why it went all the way back up. Yeah, so I won't be chasing this, it's too much of a gain. That's 100 points. Wow, right? So you would have to get it at this level yesterday, because you really, the gap up and the power up was too strong to even try to chase. Shopify, I am still waiting for that 200-day moving average is where I am waiting. uh, like I said yesterday, this strength on Thursday doesn't necessarily carry over to Friday. It was a strength because it was strong the entire day, but of course now it's back down below the 60, below the 15. I'm looking for the 200-day moving average. MicroStrategy, of course, I guess it bounced. Nothing else to say. I guess Bitcoin bounced. I search it's gonna be biotech related. So yeah, this is the 1025 that Moderna saw. Yeah, it didn't hit the 100, but it did bounce. Microsoft, let's see how that looks. Um, yeah, bouncing off of the 100 above. Microsoft is always strong. So Microsoft and Google are the two strong ones that if you're gonna play the bounce, these are the guys to get in, right? Facebook, I think, is it's still sitting at the 61.8. This long line right here, I guess you could have sold the straddle, but yeah, and then Nvidia, and I think that would be the last one. Yeah, this I guess it bounced, sitting below the 15. One note I want to point out is you can see that Amazon closed pretty much flat, right? Only down $1.78. But if you were to look at the October 15, and this is the straddle that I was selling, you can see the 3280, it lost 1100 on the call option, and 300, almost 400 on the put option. So if you sold the straddle on Thursday close, and Friday close was exactly identical to Thursday close, meaning one day had passed, you gain a total of $1,500 on the deterioration of the options, meaning the intrinsic value of the options deteriorated 1,500. Well, that is not entirely accurate. Here's the other thing is that Thursday to Friday has the greatest deterioration in the option value because obviously Friday is the closures option expiration. But the other thing was that this VIX ADN, right? This is the VIX for Amazon. This dropped, uh, almost 3%, dropped 1 point, almost 3%. So had this stayed elevated up here or went high or is higher for whatever reason, if this index is higher like at 35 instead of at 31.74, that time deterioration probably would have only lost maybe 100 at best, uh you know from Thursday to Friday, right? And you say, or maybe I don't think it would gain, but the calculation is kind of difficult. There's no way to calculate it. It's just you got to know that this index is important to understand when to sell the straddle and when to buy the straddle. So in this sense it did work out because it lost 3%, and Friday turned out to be mute, relatively no movement in the overall aspect of open or close of Thursday to close of Friday, essentially a $2 loss. However, you can't see that until after the fact, right? So it could have been a sell-off. It could have been, a complete. Have we seen it where they hijacked in the afternoon? They'll hijack the afternoon and they'll go boop 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 all the way up to 3,300 and touch this 15-minute trend line. So that is something that is a possibility. So selling the straddle on Thursday works out in this case where you made 1,500, but it's not going to work every time for the simple fact that option expiration Friday, very often the volatility is much higher than you would normally think.